Right now, as you watch this video, there are over 4,000 pages of classified documents sitting in government vaults around the world. Documents about objects that defy the laws of physics, about encounters that were never supposed to become public, and about a question that haunts humanity since we first looked up at the stars. Tarantino effect leftar, yellow we, white alone. Magenta Tarantino effect left. What if the answer has been known for decades? What if the silence is not about protecting national security, but about protecting a lie so massive that revealing it would shatter everything we believe about our place in the universe? Former intelligence officers, military pilots, and even astronauts have come forward. They have risked their careers, their reputations, and sometimes their safety. And they all say the same thing. Tarantino effect right we, cyan are, white not, red alone. Cyan Tarantino effect right, but why does the truth remain hidden? Why are those who speak silenced? And most importantly, what are they so afraid we will discover? Buckle up, because what you are about to hear will challenge everything you thought you knew. Great cover-up. It started in 1947. A rancher in Roswell, New Mexico, found debris scattered across his property, metallic fragments unlike anything anyone had seen. The military initially announced they had recovered a flying disc. Then within hours they changed the story. Weather balloon, they said. Nothing to see here. Move along. But witnesses told a different story. They described strange materials that could not be burned, cut, or damaged. Some claimed to have seen bodies. Not human bodies, small gray beings. For decades, the official position was denial. UFOs were mass hysteria, swamp gas, weather phenomena. Anyone who reported a sighting risked ridicule. Careers were destroyed. Witnesses were intimidated into silence. As the journalist Carl Bernstein once observed about government secrecy, the greatest enemy of the truth is very often not the lie, but the myth. And the myth of our cosmic isolation was carefully constructed and fiercely protected. But cracks in the wall have started to appear, and what is leaking through is extraordinary. But this leads us to something governments never wanted you to know about. Witnesses. In 2017, the world learned about a secret Pentagon program, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. For years, it had been investigating encounters between military personnel and unidentified aerial phenomena. Fighter pilots came forward with gun camera footage, objects that moved in ways that violated known physics, no visible propulsion, instantaneous acceleration, speeds that would kill any human pilot, no wings, no exhaust. Commander David Fravor, a decorated Navy pilot with decades of experience, described his encounter with the now famous Tic-Tac object. It dropped from 60,000 feet to sea level in seconds. It mirrored his movements. Then it vanished. He was not alone. Dozens of pilots, radar operators, and intelligence officers have shared similar accounts. These are not conspiracy theorists in tinfoil hats. These are trained observers with top security clearances. As astronaut Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, stated before his death, "I happen to be privileged enough to be in on the fact that we are not alone on this planet." A man who walked on the lunar surface, telling us we are not alone. And speaking of what has been observed, the evidence goes far beyond testimony. Technology. Here is what makes the UFO phenomenon impossible to dismiss. The technology being observed does not exist, at least, not in any human inventory. We are talking about craft that can travel at hypersonic speeds without creating sonic booms, objects that transition seamlessly from air to water to space, vehicles that show no visible means of propulsion, yet accelerate at forces that would instantly kill any biological organism. Impossible by our physics. The United States, China, and Russia spend hundreds of billions on aerospace research. If any nation possessed this technology, they would dominate the planet. No country would keep such an advantage hidden for 75 years. The physics alone is staggering. To achieve what witnesses describe would require energy sources we cannot comprehend, propulsion systems that manipulate gravity itself, materials that can withstand forces that would shred titanium like paper. As the theoretical physicist Michio Kaku noted, we have to keep an open mind, Because these objects are doing things that we cannot reproduce. If it is not ours, and it is not theirs, then whose is it? This brings us to patterns that span continents and centuries. Ancient. Long before radar systems and fighter jets, humans recorded strange objects in the sky. Ancient cave paintings show disc-shaped objects and beings in what appear to be helmets. Medieval artwork depicts spheres and lights hovering over religious scenes. Sanskrit texts describe flying machines called vimanas in extraordinary detail. Thousands of years ago, the Tully Papyrus, allegedly from the reign of Thutmose III, describes circles of fire in the sky. Aboriginal Australians have Dreamtime stories about sky beings. The Dogon tribe of Mali somehow knew about Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, centuries before modern telescopes confirmed its existence. Coincidence? Cultural mythology? Or could our ancestors have witnessed the same phenomena that military pilots encounter today? The astronomer Carl Sagan, despite his skepticism, acknowledged an important truth. The universe is a pretty big place. If it's just us, seems like an awful waste of space. If contact has been happening for millennia, it raises an uncomfortable question. Why the secrecy now? But wait, because what comes next changes everything about why governments stay silent. Real. Imagine this scenario. Tomorrow, every government on Earth confirms that intelligent extraterrestrial life exists and has been visiting our planet. What happens next? First, religious frameworks that place humanity at the center of divine creation would face an existential crisis. Not all would crumble, but many would need radical reinterpretation. Faith would be tested. Second, the power structures that control our world would suddenly seem absurd. National borders, economic systems, political divisions. How important are they when we are not the only intelligence in the cosmos? Third, and this is crucial, technology that is potentially free energy, advanced propulsion, materials that defy physics. Whose hands would it fall into? Who would control it? The current order, the oil companies, the defense contractors, the governments that derive power from scarcity, they would lose everything. As the former Canadian Defense Minister Paul Hellyer stated publicly, decades ago, visitors from other planets warned us about where we were headed. A former defense minister of a G7 nation, speaking on record, and yet most people never heard this. And speaking of what we have not heard, the suppression runs deeper than you think. Silenced. Throughout history, those who knew too much about the phenomenon have faced consequences. Some were ridiculed into obscurity. Others received threats. A few simply vanished. James Forrestal, the first United States Secretary of Defense, allegedly fell to his death from a hospital window in 1949. He had been vocal about extraordinary threats facing the nation, threats he could never fully disclose. Suicide, they said. Witnesses from Roswell received intimidating visits from military officers. They were told to forget what they saw, for the good of the country, for their families. Researchers who got too close to classified programs found their funding cut, their reputations destroyed. Even today, whistleblowers must navigate a labyrinth of classification laws that can result in imprisonment. The message is clear. Stay quiet. As philosopher Mitchell Foucault understood about power, visibility is a trap. Those who become too visible, who know too much and say too much, become targets. Yet despite the risks, brave individuals continue to come forward, and their numbers are growing. This brings us to our next point, one that will make you question everything you thought was settled. Scientific. Here is the strangest part of this entire mystery. Science tells us that extraterrestrial life should exist. There are more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on every beach on Earth. Billions of planets exist in habitable zones around their suns. Life emerged on Earth almost as soon as conditions allowed. The odds of us being alone are mathematically absurd. Trillions of chances. Yet mainstream science largely ignores the UFO phenomenon. Why? Because the implications are career-ending. Astronomers who express interest in UAP research face ridicule from peers. Grant money dries up. Publications become difficult. The stigma is real and intentional, but the evidence keeps mounting. The James Webb Space Telescope is finding biosignatures in exoplanet atmospheres. Radio astronomers detect mysterious signals that remain unexplained. Former intelligence officials testify under oath about recovered materials of non-human origin. As Arthur C. Clarke, scientist and visionary, once wrote, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Perhaps the scientific community is not ignoring the evidence. Perhaps they are afraid of what confirming it would mean. But what if I told you that disclosure is already happening in plain sight? Slow disclosure. Something shifted in 2017. The New York Times, one of the most credible newspapers in the world, published a front-page story about secret Pentagon UFO investigations. Footage was released. Officials spoke on camera. This was not a tabloid rumor. This was verified journalism. The narrative changed. Since then, the drip of information has become a steady flow. Congressional hearings have been held. Military personnel have testified under oath. The term UFO was replaced with UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, giving the subject new legitimacy. NASA formed a panel to study the phenomenon. Major news networks now cover sightings without mockery. Former intelligence officers claim that crash retrieval programs have recovered materials and even biological entities. This gradual normalization is not accidental. You do not shift 75 years of denial overnight. The public is being prepared. As investigative journalist George Knapp has documented for decades, the truth has a way of coming out, no matter how deeply it's buried. The question is no longer whether disclosure will happen. It is whether we are ready for what comes after. And speaking of this, here is what they might be preparing us for. What if intelligent beings have been observing Earth, perhaps for thousands of years? What is their purpose? The speculation ranges from benevolent to terrifying. Some researchers suggest we are being studied. A cosmic wildlife preserve where a primitive species is monitored as it develops. We are the experiment. Others theorize concern that these observers intervene at critical moments, that nuclear facilities have been mysteriously deactivated, that weapons tests have been monitored. Perhaps they are ensuring we do not destroy ourselves before we mature as a species. The more disturbing theories suggest resource interest, not in our oil or gold, but in something far more valuable. Our genetics, our consciousness, the planet itself as real estate in a cosmic territory we do not understand. But perhaps the most profound possibility is that they are simply waiting. As the philosopher Immanuel Kant once reflected on our cosmic significance, two things fill the mind with ever new and increasing admiration: the starry heavens above and the moral law within. Maybe contact depends on us, on whether humanity can evolve past its petty conflicts and join a larger community of intelligence. And this brings us to the most important question of all, the real truth. Here is what governments truly hide. It is not just that extraterrestrial life exists. It is that knowing this changes everything about who we are. We have built civilizations on the assumption that we are special, unique, the pinnacle of creation. Our economies, our religions, our wars, our borders, all rest on the idea that this small rock is the center of everything that matters. It is not. The truth they hide is not about them. It is about us. It is about facing the reality that we are infants in a cosmic nursery, that our conflicts are petty, that our achievements are modest, that we have neighbors we never invited, never controlled, and cannot comprehend. As the great astronomer and philosopher Giordano Bruno declared centuries before his execution for heresy, there are countless suns and countless earths all rotating around their suns. He was burned at the stake for this truth. Today, the stakes are different, but the resistance remains. The greatest conspiracy is not that governments hide alien visitors. It is that we hide from ourselves the humility that true cosmic awareness demands. So what do we do with this knowledge? Perhaps the first step is simply to look up, not with fear but with wonder, not with arrogance but with humility. The universe is vast beyond our imagination, ancient beyond our comprehension, and almost certainly teeming with intelligence we have yet to understand. Tarantino effect left we. Yellow are, white not. Magenta alone. Yellow Tarantino effect left. The governments that hide this truth do so because they fear what awakened humanity might become. They fear a world where national borders seem absurd, where war appears primitive, where the petty divisions that keep us controlled dissolve in the face of cosmic reality. But you do not need their permission to wake up. You do not need official disclosure to start asking questions, to look at the evidence, to demand transparency, to prepare your mind for truths that will eventually emerge. Tarantino effect right. The cyan truth, white is, orange coming. Cyan Tarantino effect right as the philosopher Teilhard de Chardin envisioned. Quote effect. We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. Teilhard de Chardin quote effect. Perhaps our cosmic neighbors already understand this. Perhaps they are waiting for us to understand it too. The question is not whether we are alone. The question is whether we are ready to stop pretending we are. If this opened your eyes, like this video and subscribe. Share it with someone ready to question everything. The truth spreads one awakened mind at a time.